So today we're kind of doing a couple of these I can statements. These are some finished watercolor castles, but I want you to notice they all have something in the side of it. You know, it could be like details of the brick. This one has like little waves. This has swirls. So, you know, you can do whatever you want. So we're going to be doing, today we're going to learn about patterns so that I can use repeated elements to create designs using crayon on my castle. And we are also going to learn about colors so that I can paint my drawing with watercolor paint to add color to all the different sections of my castle. So these are some finished examples. A lot of these have a black outline, but you don't have to do all black. So if you get yours back, like if I look at mine, I have some areas here that are just plain. I can take a crayon and I can add more lines or more designs to it to make it look interesting. This time I used this gray, kind of a blue gray. And why I'm doing this is when I use the watercolor, the water and then the wax of the crayons are not going to mix. So wherever there's crayon, it's gonna kind of push away the watercolor. And then maybe on the torches, the flame, maybe that's so small, maybe I just want to color it in with crayon. So maybe I want that flame to be bright red, hot. Maybe I want to mix yellow and orange with it too, to make it look interesting too. I probably should have mixed that earlier, but that's okay. So you can decide if you want to add something. Maybe you don't want to color the windows in. You want to leave some yellow. With like there's a flame or a candle in there and those lights are on. So you can decide areas that maybe are too small. If they're smaller than your thumb, maybe you want to color them with the crayon. Also, all the space around here, I'm going to be painting like a sky. If you want like a moat or something like that, you can have that around here because a lot of castles will have the water around it, and then this drawbridge, this would come down so that people could enter the castle if they were invited, and if they aren't invited, they have to basically swim through the water, okay? So notice I didn't color that in, I just added some little curvy lines to show where like the water would be, okay? So what we're gonna be using for watercolor is this liquid watercolor. So this is regular watercolor, but I've added water to it, so you don't have to use that sticky pad or add water. The only time you need water is if you're changing color. That's very important, okay? Because if you go from, let's say, blue without changing to yellow, you're gonna make that yellow turn to green, okay? So make sure you always go to the water in between every color, okay? And I'm actually starting it in water because you never know how well the person before you cleaned the brush. So let's say my castle, I'll have like a black here too. So this is all the colors, but I'll add a black, and the black's kind of a blue-black anyways. So I'm going to my water first, and then I'm gonna dip my brush into the paint. You don't need to swirl it around, just gonna literally dip it in there, and then I'm gonna paint. And you see how the water is kind of getting pushed away from the crayons? And that's what's so fun about this is when you paint next to side by side, normally you have to worry about bleeding. Not that it can happen, but it really does keep the paint inside your lines. So I painted that. Then let's say I'm gonna skip to the top here. So maybe that's pretty wet right there. Maybe I'm gonna skip to another little section. So I want you to notice, hey, I went to the water. I kind of clean out my brush, swirl it around, not splashing, just swirling it around. Then I'm gonna have orange. So maybe the rooftops here are orange. Why not? Doesn't have to be realistic. Maybe you use orange crayon and you want to paint them red or green. You know, you could totally do that. So I painted that. I'm gonna go to the water in between my next color, and then let's say I'm gonna paint on top of these castles, this part right here. So I'm gonna go back to the blue, kind of liking that blue color. This time I want it to be a little lighter blue, so what I want you to notice is I'm gonna go to the water and then blue. Just barely dip it in there. okay? And what that is doing is just putting a little teeny bit of water onto your brush. See this one? I didn't go to the water. See how much darker that is? So if you want it to be lighter, just go to the water and then literally paint right on top. It works so great. Okay, so that's really like a light pastel and it's not so bold, okay? So just remember, always go to the water in between every color, unless, like this, when I painted this blue, since I was using the same shade of blue, I just would go to blue, to blue, to blue. The only time I went to the water before the blue was when I wanted it to be like a light blue. So that's just an idea. Then once you get your castle all painted, then you can worry about the background. So I'll have black, I'll have blue, I'll have violet. So you know you can have your sky look however you want. This violet's pretty light, though just the way it is. So I'm really not adding water to my brush. And I'm just being very careful. Even though I have this nice border there, I'm going to be very careful when I'm painting near another color. And my sky, I did, oops, I see I got a little orange. Let me show you what happens. There's two things what I do. One thing I like to do when that happens, I go into the water. You can leave it the way it is. It's not like at the end of the world. I can go to the water and kind of squeeze it out so it's kind of dry. And then I kind of go like this and use it like a mop, like I mopped up my mess. And then I know, okay, that orange is really vibrant. Maybe I'll kind of go around that area. Maybe I'll work in another area while that's drying, okay? So I'm painting my sky. I did a violet. I could be like, ooh, I like violet, and then maybe I'll use a little bit of blue just to give it some character, okay? In a few little areas. And so I don't have pools of water or anything like that in here. Now, when I look at this, there's a lot of orange right there. So let's pretend for a second that I finished painting my whole castle, my sky, my water. I'll show you what happens there. So with the water, if you want it to be a moat, you just kind of go over it. And so that blue is a different shade of blue. So it's really standing out. It just gives it a nice texture. But let's pretend that I'm finished. What I'm gonna do while this is kind of sitting there and drying, I might clean out my brush first. And then I'm gonna take this up and notice I'm gonna hold it with both hands on either side so it does not drip. You don't wanna hold it sideways or it's gonna smear all the colors down. So you have to hold it like it's a tray holding a water cup, okay? So you don't want to spill your tray. And then you'll take it up to the drying rack. And if it's really wet, I might even have you put it on a flat table. And then when you're finished with this, once you've put it away, you want to wipe your area, and then you are done. So we're working on our easy watercolor, and we're using liquid watercolors, and you can paint it whatever colors, whether it's realistic or not, that's completely up to you.